There is a troubling propensity to discount or outright reject expert advice related to international security, including the conclusions of intelligence experts. The board concludes in no uncertain terms that words matter in ensuring the safety and security of our planet. They are not the same as actions, but they matter a lot, especially when the risks of accident and miscalculation are so high. They have the ability to be walked back, but so too, as we have seen, influential actors alter their behavior in response to loose talk in ways that do not promote confidence and steady or smart decision-making. In 2016, the board warned that 3 minutes to midnight is too close, far too close. Since then, inaction and brinkmanship have continued. Saber-rattling and the rhetoric and loose but dangerous rhetoric have become almost commonplace. To convey its concern about this unique moment and issue a call to leaders and citizens across the globe to put the world on a safer footing, the board takes the unprecedented step, the first time in its history, of moving the clock hand 30 seconds closer to midnight. Today we move the clock a half minute closer to midnight. It is now 2.5 minutes to midnight.
Good morning. Just moments ago, that doomsday clock moved forward 30 seconds and now stands at 2.5 minutes before midnight. That's the closest to midnight, or the end of the world, as it's been in 64 years, showing that this panel has real concerns about what the future may hold. We're talking about a metaphor. We're not literally minutes from the end of the world.
Well, it is a metaphor, but we are literally minutes away from a nuclear exchange should someone press a button.
The doomsday clock ticked 30 seconds closer to midnight, in part, the experts say, because it's President Donald Trump's finger on the button. Prior to taking office, he called for the U.S. to strengthen and expand its nuclear capability.
Does the election of a new president who might be more hawkish, is that grounds for moving the clock?
Those are the issues that the Science and Security Board take into consideration. We very rarely make a decision based on an individual.
The Bulletin of Atomic Scientists debuted the clock in 1947, setting the initial time at 7 minutes to midnight because, according to the artist who designed it, quote, "It looked good to my eye." The hands came the closest to midnight, 2 minutes away, in 1953, after the U.S. and the Soviet Union tested their first hydrogen bombs.
This seems to me to be more a day for a searching of the human soul, perhaps, than for any kind of scientific celebration.
We were the furthest from annihilation in 1991.
I'm moving the clock.
With 17 minutes to spare, after the signing of the Strategic Arms Reduction Treaty at the end of the Cold War. But they acknowledge they once got it wrong. The year of the Cuban Missile Crisis, which brought the world to the brink of nuclear war, the clock moved back to 12 minutes to midnight.
That's the one that when we look back across our whole time series is the one that we'd say they didn't know all the information at that point.
If that clock ticks closer to midnight, are you going to lose any sleep?
No, I'm not going to lose any sleep. I don't think we're near an apocalypse.
Bill Gertz writes about national security for the Washington Times and is publishing a new book which details the continuing threat of nuclear weapons. He sees the doomsday clock as more of a political barometer.
In a lot of ways, the doomsday clock is being used by the liberal left to try to promote its agenda for nuclear disarmament, for greater efforts to control climate change and other elements.
We've moved it for Republicans and Democrats, and most recently under a Democratic administration.
There are some that are going to say all you're doing is creating panic at a time when there's a lot of uncertainty.
Our goal isn't to create panic, but it is to say this is very serious and there's things that we can do. And if we can have that conversation, that would be very productive.
Saying words matter, the panel expressed real concern over comments President Trump has made about nuclear weapons and climate change, but also about developments in China, Russia, North Korea, India, and Pakistan, as well as for the first time talking seriously about cyber threats, including cyber terrorism and hacking as a way to undermine democracy.
11 people are dead after storms moved through Georgia overnight. Several others are hurt, and the governor has issued a state of emergency there. The National Weather Service says southern Georgia, northern Florida, and the corner of southeastern Alabama could face forceful tornadoes, damaging winds, and large hail today as well. There are 4.8 million people in a high-risk area. Meanwhile, many people are out of their homes after last night's storms that uprooted trees and blew off roofs.
I was standing at the kitchen door, and I didn't hear nothing. I just seen it all come off the house. And I never did hear a tornado siren or nothing.
About 38 million people are living in areas at risk for severe weather. The damage is devastating in southern Mississippi after a tornado killed 4 people during a 25-mile rampage across the countryside there. More than 300 homes and 30 businesses are damaged, as well as hundreds of other buildings, including almost every building on the campus of William Carey University.
You got to rebuild. You got to rebuild.
All right.
Help our neighbors rebuild. Make sure everybody all right today. Just rebuild. We got to stay strong for each other out here.
The mayor of Hattiesburg has signed an emergency declaration and put a curfew in place following the storms.
William Carey University in Hattiesburg, Mississippi remains closed until further notice. The campus, as you can see, was hit very hard by the Saturday morning tornado. Thankfully, nobody on campus lost their life in the storms, but there were some students who did receive injuries. One was a student who lost 3 fingers when a door slammed shut on her hand. Now, most of the buildings at the private Christian school were damaged, some pretty extensively, as you can see by these pictures, and students have had to pack up their things and relocate until those buildings can be inspected for safety. And you've just seen the images: cars overturned, roofs ripped up, trees snapped, power lines down. So you can see why safety is the university's top priority. One thing that did survive, however, was a statue of Christ. And many students are now looking at that as a symbol of hope on the road to recovery.
A group of scientists from India want to investigate if the 2015 Nepal earthquake resulted in the shrinking of Mount Everest, as satellite data suggests. The country's Surveyor General, Swarna Subbarao, said Everest was last measured in 1955 by the Indian government. That survey, more than a half-century ago, recorded the height of the world's tallest mountain as 8,848 meters, or 29,029 feet. Following the 7.8 magnitude quake in Nepal, Rao believes the mountain may have dropped by as much as a meter. He intends to send a team of about 30 scientists and surveyors to take exact measurements and determine the mountain's current height.
Well, sea levels are rising at a concerning rate. According to scientists at NOAA, a new report outlines new sea levels will rise to 8 feet above the current level by 2100. That might not sound like a lot, but think of it this way: 6 million Americans live within 6 feet of sea level. The report focused on the frequency of flooding, which is a serious risk of life and property. Scientists say that the rising sea level has accelerated in recent years due to warm oceans and the melting of land-based ice like glaciers.
In the suburbs of Philadelphia on Wednesday, officials say a massive sinkhole appeared under parts of 2 residential yards and is threatening to swallow a pickup truck. According to officials in Cheltenham Township, the hole appears to be about 20 feet deep and opened up sometime around 4 a.m. on Wednesday morning. Near the yards affected by the sinkhole, parts of the sidewalk and the edge of the street have also fallen in. Authorities have reported that nobody was injured and there was no apparent cause for the sinkhole to develop.
A councilwoman is pushing to protect LGBT city workers from discrimination. Today, Cape Coral Council is voting to change an ordinance about equal opportunity employment. As NBC2's Christina Mendez reports, the employment policy addition would mean the city would be fair and equal towards anyone, regardless of gender identity, expression, or sexual orientation.
What makes us any different than anybody else? Why are we not protected? That's blatant discrimination.
Arlene Goldberg is standing at the forefront of a fight for LGBTQ rights at the county and city level.
When my wife Carol passed away, that kind of threw me into this motion to move forward, and I couldn't before because Carol worked for the county and she was in the closet.
Starting in Cape Coral, these 6 words are painting a layer of protection for LGBTQ city workers in an equal opportunity employer policy.
Just on a job application to say we don't discriminate against them, that shouldn't even have to be said. They just shouldn't be doing it.
Today, council members will hear from Councilwoman Jessica Cosden, who says in a statement, until the federal or state government adds clear protective language, municipalities and counties have the responsibility to decide if this language should be incorporated at the local level.
We need to have same-sex couples come here and live to build our community, and that will encourage them to come.
Right now, the Equal Opportunity Employer Policy includes anti-discrimination against things like age, gender, and ethnicity. But council members will vote today to approve or deny specific protection for the LGBTQ community.
The only difference between us and everybody else is who we love.
Minnesota Governor Mark Dayton collapsed at a podium Monday night while delivering his State of the State address. As you can see in this video, the governor paused to take a drink of water before appearing to faint. The 69-year-old governor was then taken to a back room and appeared to be conscious. Dayton was hospitalized in February of last year after he fainted at an event. The governor has undergone a series of back and hip surgeries in recent years. We will keep an eye on this story and bring you any updates.
President Trump has made it clear he wants to get rid of undocumented immigrants with criminal records. Now the White House is putting 23 countries on notice that if they refuse to take back their citizens who are in the U.S. illegally and have committed crimes, there's going to be trouble. The Trump administration says those countries could lose access to visas, among other things. William Lajeunesse is live in L.A. with more on the story. All right, William, 23 countries. How many people are we talking about here?
Over 60,000. You know, there are three kinds of criminal aliens, Shannon. Those who are in jail, those let go by sanctuary cities, and those released because their home country won't take them back. But not once in the last 8 years did the State Department even threaten these so-called recalcitrant countries, saying, if you don't take your people back, your people can't come here. Donald Trump said yesterday he will play hardball.
The day is over when they can stay in our country and wreak havoc. We are going to get them out, and we're going to get them out fast. Our order also does the following: ends the policy of catch and release at the border, requires other countries to take back their criminals. They will take them back.
Top 7 countries: China, Cuba, Haiti, Brazil, India, Pakistan, and Vietnam. All told, over 100,000, 60,000, again, criminal aliens out free because these countries won't take them back. State Department could retaliate or threaten to cut off their aid, runs into the hundreds of millions, but the last 2 presidents refused to enforce the law. Only once did the State Department do so, Shannon, and that was Guyana in 2001, and they immediately took their people back. Bottom line, Donald Trump on this diplomatic issue is not going to be diplomatic.
Mexican President Enrique Peña Nieto has vowed to protect Mexican immigrants currently in the U.S.
Donde haya un migrante mexicano en riesgo que requiera nuestro respaldo, ahí debemos estar.
He said that after President Donald Trump signed a series of executive orders on Wednesday. One calls for the start of the U.S.-Mexico border project. Another order aims to punish sanctuary cities that protect undocumented immigrants. Nieto has rejected Trump's plans for the border and said his government will offer legal advice to immigrants living in the states. Details are sparse, but Nieto's plan will reportedly include making 50 Mexican consulates in the U.S. advocates for the rights of migrants. Nieto also took a moment to emphasize what he and 2 former presidents of Mexico have said for months. Mexico will not pay for the barrier.
I'm not going to pay for that wall.
Mexican people, we are not going to pay any single cent for such a stupid wall.
Nieto is scheduled to meet with Trump early next week. But Trump tweeted Thursday morning, if Mexico is unwilling to pay for the badly needed wall, then it would be better to cancel the upcoming meeting.